We have been told that we are the big boys in town.
Well, he's yapping. He's into it. I'm talking about he is like lit.
I'm trying to start preaching.
Let everybody say amen.
I can get chills a little bit thinking about what these two guys could be.
We are back on the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. You got the trio back with you. That's DJ Shockley throwing up the dubs. The dubs. And Dave Archer here throwing up the skull chant from the beginning of the game.
Maybe not.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not.
Falcons said not. You can go ahead and put that down. 22-6, Atlanta Falcons victory over the Vikings on the road. Gentlemen, we talked so much about this matchup last week. And Arch, I'm going to start with you. You were in the building. We knew one of the biggest challenges was going to be the environment. And before we came on the air, you said that place was rocking. And then we saw early on in the game, Falcons offense struggled a little bit against that noise factor, if you will. For the people that weren't there, explain to them how really loud it was and difficult to communicate it had to have been for the players.
I've got some noise-canceling headphones on so I can do the broadcast. Obviously, I can hear the engineer. I can hear Wes talking to me and stuff. I could barely hear them. Yeah. That's how loud it was. You guys were in the building at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville this weekend. Yeah. Anybody that watched that game, if you missed it, unbelievable environment, incredible. It had to have been similar to that. But they do some really cool stuff pregame, much like we do here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But they have this fake snow that falls out of the sky, and they darken the building where it feels like you're on a Scandinavian landscape. And they got Thor's hammer hitting it. It's a really cool way to come in. And they got this guy's voice that's like 4 octaves lower than anybody else can ever get low. Yeah, welcome. And he's introducing these guys. And the place was completely going berserk because obviously they'd won on the road in Monday night. Yeah. They had a young quarterback that they felt great about in the fourth quarter. He was the NFC Player of the Week coming back, and they had all this energy, and so it is filtering through these fans and the way they introduced their team and the environment that was there, and it certainly was on display in that opening drive, right?
Yeah, and Shock, he talked about us being at Neyland Stadium, and we were in a loud atmosphere as well. But I think it's good for you guys to talk about it as quarterbacks that have had to navigate places that are extremely loud, create that home field advantage. Like, talk to the people about what it was like for Michael Penix as he's trying to get the play call coming through his headphones, his helmet from Zach Robinson. You could see him trying to cover the holes in his helmet to try to hear it, and they were having struggles early on with that.
And here's the crazy thing about it is nowadays when quarterbacks have things inside the ears that, covers the ear holes so that, you don't get as much noise in. And to still be covering that is crazy, but I've been there before. Arch, I know you've been there before. I remember playing one year at LSU, and we're backed up maybe like the 10, 5-yard line, and watching Michael Penix in the huddle literally looks like he's yelling at his guys, and they're like 2 feet from his face. I know what that feels like, and it's kind of the worst feeling to be yelling so hard at guys, and they don't understand you, or maybe they don't hear you, and they're leaning hard. You see guys leaving the huddle, still trying to ask again what they're saying. It's a tough deal, man, to have the crowd noise, and then you're trying to get a play out so that every person can hear it. Because, if one guy doesn't hear it, one guy is off, or he doesn't understand, or he thinks he hears something else, that could ruin the entire play. So I totally understand what Michael Penix was going through early in that ball game, trying to get the play call, trying to get the right formation, maybe a motion here, trying to make sure he relays that to his teammates. That is a tough deal in a road environment, and the crowd knows it. Yeah. And, we've been in a bunch of stadiums where they're really intelligent crowds in a lot of places. And they understand when to turn that octave up a little bit. Yeah. And I know Minnesota was one of those places that knew, okay, once that quarterback starts to walk in the huddle, it's time to ramp it up. And you can see they did that.
Yeah, it's one of those things, guys, where in Shock, great way of describing guys that can't hear, because you're leaning in. Now, you've got 10 helmets that are trying to lean in to hear what you're saying. And there'll be times, why did it take so long to get the huddle? Why are we so in the – you're having to tell quadrants of the huddle what the play is. So you're actually leaning in and maybe telling these 3 guys. Then you got to go tell these 4 guys. Then you got to tell these – because they can't hear it all together. You can't get in close enough. I thought that was part of what was going on. I've experienced that in New Orleans because of that concrete roof. One of the worst places I ever played from a noise standpoint was in Seattle, and their old Kingdom was very similar with that concrete roof, and everything was coming back down. So it was similar to that. But the problem is, if you're a young quarterback, you've been geared during the week. Okay, if we see this look, we're going to get to this.
Yeah.
And I didn't think Michael changed gears, and I can't do that at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And maybe even to a certain extent, Zach Robinson getting plays in. I've got to come with a more universal play here that's going to work against whatever they do from a pressure look, or if I feel like they're going to play off in coverage. I've got to have a play that services all of that. Mm-hmm. And I thought Zach made some adjustments in his play calling that allowed Michael to not have to do stuff in the line of scrimmage. Because remember, we had to burn a timeout because it got so close to the wire, because Michael got to the line of scrimmage and said, wait a minute, we can't run that against that.
Yeah.
So we're going to change it. And so I thought that the adjustment, both quarterback-wise, from an environment standpoint, and the coach was a good adjustment.
One last thing to Archer's point there, talking about having a uniform play. I remember when I played for Greg Knapp, rest in peace, Greg Knapp, West Coast guy. The verbiage was really, really long. So play calls were 10, 12, 15 words long, and there were times where maybe you didn't get it. Maybe it didn't come in. And he used to always tell us you need to have 2 default plays ready to go at all times. Regardless of formation, regardless of down the distance, you need to have 2 default plays, whether it's a run or pass or whoever's in. And I think that's part of the scenario too. But it's tough to do. I mean, in that moment, you ain't thinking about those default plays. You're trying to make sure you get that play out. But Archer's definitely right. Glad they tried to simplify things a little bit as they went on, because it's a tough crowd.
However, with all the stuff that we've talked about, Falcons just 5 penalties for 29 yards, and they won the game, right, playing on the road. So they handled it well after a few speed bumps early on in the game. And guys, since we're talking about the offense, let's just go ahead and stay there. One of the areas they struggled against Tampa was running the football. And that had to be a focus coming out in this game. And boy, did they ever come out and make it a focus and win up front running the football. Arch, as a quarterback, how much of a luxury is it when you turn around, hand the ball off to Bijan, and it's 7, 12, Tyler comes in, 6, 8, first down. I mean, they were ripping on all cylinders running the football.
You see this big grin on my face? That's what you get as a quarterback. Best friend of a quarterback is running game. And we didn't have that last week. And Penix, I thought, did a great job of handling that and maybe having to throw the ball maybe more than they wanted to, 42 times last week. This week he had the run game going. We talked about last week on this show how we knew, having been in meeting rooms, how tight-knit an offensive line group is and how much they take offense to not have played to their capabilities. Yep. This is an offensive group that has been able to run the football regardless of who the offensive coordinators. They've been able to run the football for the last several years here. You've got arguably one of the 3 best backs in the National Football League and maybe the best backup running back in the National Football League. We're going to run the football. And they got, frankly, they got embarrassed a little bit in how they handled the physical piece of the game last week. We all knew, and we said it on the show, that this group is going to play exponentially better, and they took it to another level. When I asked Raheem I actually said it to Raheem in his interview after the game. When you run the ball for 150 yards in this league, in the NFL, you've pushed people around physically. When you run for over 200 yards, you have kicked their ass. Okay, sorry. I mean, that's just you don't do that to teams. You don't run for 200 yards. Yep. Georgia running for 200 yards, and that's a good day. Yeah. But in the NFL, you don't do that
against that defense too. Yeah.
Against a group like that, against a Brian Flores defense, phenomenal performance.
Yeah, 39 carries, 218 yards. This is one of those performances, DJ. When you look at Michael Penix and his numbers. 13 to 21, 135, no touchdowns, no picks. And you're like, gosh, did he really play that well? Guess what? He didn't have to. Right. So think about the 2 games. The first game, he had to throw it. Running game wasn't working. They were behind. They had to get back in the game by throwing it. This one didn't have to, because run game was not only there from the jump, but it was there the entire game. Right? So when you get run game in the NFL and you get defense, a lot of times your quarterback doesn't have to do a whole lot. Yeah. And Michael Penix didn't have to do a whole lot through the air because things were so efficient running the football and just chewing up big yards every single play.
But how scary is that the week before you got it done in the pass game, and then week 2 you turn around and run the football? So now you turn on the tape and you say, you know what? these guys can beat us in any kind of way. And it shows this team has the ability maybe to get it done in both ways. It wasn't like you had to come out like Art mentioned, hey, you got to throw it 42 more times. You got to find a way to get it down the field. But you showed it. And I love the fact that his offensive line took it personal. I love the fact that Raheem Morris took it personal that they wanted to run the football. And you look all the way across the board, tight ends, saw receivers, saw Drake, saw Moore, saw all these guys on the outside blocking as well. You saw O-line getting up to that second level, getting on backers, hat on the hat. And then there were times where, you know what, the Vikings were there, and number 7 made dudes miss. Number 7 turned a negative or 1 yard gain into an 18-yard run. And then you just couple all that together. It just shows that this offense has the capability to be really, really special once it's all put together. But also, at any given time, you can do whatever needs to win. Go back to last week, and we were talking about it, and Arch talked to Michael Penix about, hey, did you think coming to this game you had to throw it this many times? And he said, all I care about is winning. All I care about is whatever the game calls for, I'm willing to do it. And what other people fail to realize, too, or may not know is Michael Penix is involved in the run game. And maybe it's not him physically running the football, but it's maybe him getting them into a better run. Maybe this play was supposed to go outside zone left. They bring the safety down. He swaps it over to the other side. Now you pick up 7-8 yards instead of this being just a 0-yard gain. So there's so many things that goes in the line of scrimmage of him getting them into the right run that helps them become a really good football team when it comes to running the ball. So there are a lot of factors that go into it as well with the quarterback, even though he's not, quote-unquote, using his legs.
Arch, you mentioned Bijan Robinson, top 3. And during the broadcast, they played the interview of Saquon Barkley, him talking about Bijan Robinson, saying that he's basically the best cutter in the National Football League. Like, nobody else can move. And Saquon saying, I feel like I'm pretty good. Yeah. He's like, I can't do what he can do. Yeah. And every single week, he's doing that. He's making some people miss. So whether you want to have the argument or not, but it's probably Bijan, Saquon, Derrick Henry right now is probably your top 3 in the National Football League. And you could almost make an argument that Bijan Robinson is number 1 with what he has been, what he's shown on display so far this year. Bijan Robinson, 168 total yards in the game. Minnesota Vikings, 198 total yards in the game.
Yeah.
Bijan almost matched the entire offense from Minnesota.
Well, you don't like how I like to make movie references.
Please.
So we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and label him now, and it's been used in some places, but I believe I'm now going to call it. He's not Mr. Anderson. He's Mr. Robinson, and he is the Matrix. He is now the Matrix. Number 6. You talk about he made some his last. I had a chance to talk to Bijan post game, and I said, dude, I've never seen a guy make as many moves in a phone booth the way you do. And I said the last run of the game that he had, I think, before they brought Tyler in, the bowling ball of razor blades that just cut him up the rest of the way. He made 3 people miss in like a 3-yard area, and it was like a 5-yard gain. But it was boom, jump here, bang, bang. And you got guys, it's a yard sale because guys' stuff is just flying off them trying to keep. And he gets a feel, he goes, well, he says, I like to watch Barry Sanders.
Yeah, that works.
And that's the guy, when you begin to think, you go back, and if you've never seen Barry Sanders, where have you been? But go look at some tape of Barry Sanders and his ability to jump backwards, sideways. I would say Bijan Robinson is the 2.0 version of Barry Sanders. And Barry Sanders is a Hall of Famer, and it's just amazing. So knock on wood, let's keep 7 healthy.
One other thing from that conversation with Arch that I loved and I thought was like bro, this can't be real. Like, why would you say this about a dude or say this about a defensive player, period? Arch asked him, about running and all this kind of stuff, and what are you thinking about? He says when it's him and a linebacker or whoever in the hole, he wants to make that guy as uncomfortable as possible. What? Do you want to make that guy and y'all are in a hole together and he wants to make that first guy as uncomfortable as possible? That tells you the mindset he has, like, oh, this first one, forget about it. Ain't no chance. And you got to love that you got a back who's like that. And we see it time and time again. Like, you think you can't get away from something or the hole is not there, or like Arch mentioned, in the phone booth, and the dude comes out the other end of it. And, I mean, the play where he thought he was down, he rolls over the guy, keeps his balance, and then 2-3 guys jump on his back. He still goes for another 3-4 yards. I mean, he's an unbelievable runner for sure.
He's going to make defenders take the pill.
Yes.
It's either the red pill or the blue pill. It's the Matrix. I'm either going to embarrass you with my speed or I'm going to undress you with a move.
He said he wants to make people uncomfortable in the hole, right? That just tells me, number one, how much confidence he has in himself, right? And then number two, the fact that you compare him not only to Barry Sanders, but that he can do that. It's one thing to say like, oh, I like to watch Barry Sanders film. No offense to Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry can't do what Barry Sanders did.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson can. His feet and the way that his body moves and his body control is good enough to do that. That's what's probably so impressive. There just hasn't been people like Barry. There hasn't been people that can duplicate it because it was that unique.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He also said LT, too, right? I mean, come on. Two
he said he wants a little Neely and Tomlinson. Tomlinson had that top-end speed. Just go, see you later, go.
Hey, well, give him credit. He picked some pretty good role models, if you will.
No doubt.
Hey, can we give a little bit of love to Parker Romo, by the way? As we were here last week, I think he was one of many guys that was getting worked out. Yep. He ends up getting signed. Obviously has a good week. Organizations decides to go with him in the game. And not only that, he gets 5 opportunities, nails all of them. As a former specialist, the one thing that stuck out to me was how freaking high he kicks the ball.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Okay? The very first one went over the upright, and it was close.
Yeah.
But once it goes over the upright, it's not reviewable.
Right.
But the reason why I say that is when you got a kicker that has distance but also height, you don't think as much about the ball getting blocked because he understands how to elevate the ball immediately right off the ground. But not only that, fellas, it was the fact that there had to have been some nerves. He just got picked up because there was a shaky kicker situation. He had played for Minnesota before. He knew he knew the circumstances, and he goes out there and he drills 5 field goals. To me, that was an impressive performance for a young man. He gets one of the game balls after the game.
Yeah.
He's getting interviewed, kind of a joke that he didn't even really know who Leonard Floyd was. Thought it was great.
I know Bijan, but
I don't know who this guy is. Who this?
How you doing?
But
good call, man.
But as a specialist, we always talk about the importance of 3 points, Arch. And it wasn't just 3, it was 15. And he hammered them. It was huge for the Falcons.
It was huge to be able to scratch for points. And we're going to talk about red zone and all that kind of stuff in a few minutes. But when you're unable to punch it in, I've got to get points. I've got to make sure that we get points when we have an opportunity. And that's, frankly, what we had not been doing. We can go back to some games a year ago where you move the football, and at some point the other side's getting paid too. They're going to get some stops. We got to scratch for points because a lot of these games come down to 1 scores. We talked about, what was it last week? 12 of the 16 games were 1-score games. It wasn't quite as many this week. I think it was 8, half the games maybe were 1-score games. But that's generally how it is. I mean, Raheem Morris has coached 19 games now as an Atlanta Falcon head coach. 13 of those have been 1-score games. We needed to get points, and he pounded them through. Nicknames. Okay, I didn't even know this, but I talked to Raheem at his coach's show for the radio a few days ago, or yesterday. We're recording this on Tuesday, and he said that the nickname for Parker Romo, The Undertaker.
The Undertaker?
Are you kidding me?
The Undertaker?
The kicker? He just threw dirt on the Vikings.
He had that, or they gave it to him?
I guess so. I don't know. That came out of nowhere. He called him the Undertaker. Okay. Now, I don't know if Raheem gets credit for that, and that was like the initial foray on the Undertaker. Love it. 5 field goals is definitely throwing dirt on the other team.
Yeah. And so Raheem Morris was asked in his virtual press conference yesterday about the kicker situation, and without being overly committal, but he pretty much said 90% chance he's going to be there, and the performance that he had. So this is just one of those scenarios. We talked about it last week. There was an opportunity for a new kicker. He came in and he seized the opportunity. Don't know what's going to happen at the kicker situation for Atlanta moving out throughout the rest of the season. But at least it's encouraging from what you saw from week 1 to week 2 that Atlanta feels much more comfortable now with that position.
How locked in can you be to not know you kicked a 54-yarder? This is what he said after the ball game. They told him, oh, yeah, you had this, and you know, that's one was a 54. He said, oh, it was 54? I didn't even realize that. That's how locked in you got to be to know that I got one singular focus, and that's putting that through the uprights, and the dude goes out and smashes. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, how much pressure is it to go out there and kick for guys that you don't really know for real? Like, you're on a team, and all these dudes are depending on you, and you don't really know who they are, but you come through. I guess what they all know who Parker Romo is, so that's a good deal.
And they like him a little bit more now every time he came off the sideline. Now, one thing I will say is Parker Romo gets opportunities. He kicks field goals. However, that came at the expense of scoring touchdowns. So you alluded to it, Arch. Let's talk a little bit about red zone. You always come in after a game, win or loss. How do we get better? Well, one of those areas has to be red zone, right? Atlanta has struggled so far in the red zone, 28.6% in the red zone through 2 games. Anything that you're noticing that's sticking out, or is this just literally lack of execution in the red zone?
Well, I think execution certainly will be at the tip of the spear on this thing, but there are many reasons why. In watching the tape from me, is you've missed some shots. I can go to one particular play where you've got a very similar play that you hit Kyle on in Washington on Sunday night on 4th down to a touchdown to send it to overtime. Very similar play. He's got Kyle right side, and Kyle is bending. He bends the backer inside of a 2-deep look, and he's got a shot. Now it's a tight window throw, not nearly as tight of the window as he hit in Washington, but he's got it. Didn't take it. Okay, so we're early in the year, reps and those kind of things, the things you're looking. I thought that he sped up his process on a couple outside breaking routes. I thought that there was a lack of urgency, and you know as well as I do, Shock, when you get down there tighter, it's a tighter window type scenario where my sense of urgency on the route has to be at the highest possible level. And when I say urgency, I can't kind of dead leg the guy coming on. I got to get into my route and get out of it because I'm not having a lot of time back there to sort things out because confined area from a yardage standpoint. So we have to be really precise in the passing game. I thought Ray on a route on the right side on an outside breaking route had a chance, but he kind of got delayed out of his route. Timing was bad. And then I thought Darnell Mooney was back on the field for the first time since early in training camp. I saw Darnell bounding himself on the leg. I didn't think he ran a very good route for him in the left corner of the end zone. So you talk about execution. Okay, there's execution from the quarterback. There's execution up front and giving him time so he can stand there, not having a guy in his face, make a clean throw, and then your route execution. So execution is a great way to put it.
Yes.
But I think there's multiple pieces to it. It's not just the quarterback, the receiver. It's also the protection and those kind of things.
Shock, as we know, in the red zone, defensive backs, they don't have to continue to backpedal. They know that they've got the back of the end zone, so they're sitting more, right? So to Arch's point, this is where the ball, you got to cut it loose. You got to trust it, and like as soon as somebody comes out of a break, that ball's got to be coming because you might be throwing it in between a backer and right with a corner hanging right over the top, and not only does it have to come out quick, it's got to be on the front shoulder because otherwise somebody's going to rake it out. Things just get more precise when you get in the red zone.
And it's a good point to what Art mentioned, how things are so confined and then things got to be so on point and you have to trust it more than anything. And the tough part about that is if you trust it and you let it go and the guy is little lax coming out of it or the DB beats him to a spot, guess what? It's a turnover. And it turns into you get no points. Yeah. So as a quarterback, your mind goes, all right, we already got points. That's the first thing you're taught as a quarterback. Once you get in the red zone, guess what? Let's make sure we get points here. And sometimes, like you mentioned, it's still early in the season, and you want to make sure that everything is what it is. And it's tough to say that, and it's a thin line because you want to be able to anticipate and trust your guys and know them, and you've done tons of red zone work coming into this season, and you get in the ball game, and you're like, okay, but still, I got to make sure that this guy's going to be where he's supposed to be, and I can let it go there. So I think as the season goes on, you start to gain that trust even more, even though you have it with your guys, but there's still a difference when you get in the ball game and you know you got points and you're in a critical moment in the game and you don't want to turn the football over. It's a big deal. So I think that time will come where those little minute details on everybody's end will just be like, boom, and let's rip it and go.
I like your comment because you're right. At the end of the day, it could have been a whole lot worse. They did get points. They didn't turn the ball over. It wasn't a fumble. There wasn't a pick in the end zone, right? So sometimes you do have to take the good out of it, but there's going to come a point, not only one game, but multiple games this season where they're going to need red zone touchdowns, and it's going to have to improve. All right, guys, let's flip it over to the other side of the ball.
Oh, did we play defense in this game?
Yeah, there was a little bit of defense that happened, right? Fellas, we talked a little bit about pass rush this offseason, didn't we?
About what?
We talked about edge rushers this offseason, didn't we? 6 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, numerous guys getting in on the party. Now, here's what I will say. Minnesota was a little banged up on the offensive line, and they got more banged up throughout the course of the game.
I don't care.
Guess what? It doesn't matter. When that happens, that's when you feast and you take advantage.
Don't matter.
And it was before Ryan Kelly got hurt, and then it was after Ryan Kelly got hurt, but it was almost a meet me at the quarterback type day, right, Arch?
Yeah. What do we serve? Brisket tonight? We got pulled pork tonight.
Yeah,
My guys are eating.
Yeah.
My guys are coming. And I don't care how you're serving it, whether it's the backup guy serving it, the extra chef serving it. They're coming. I thought that Jeff Ulbrich did an outstanding job of telling these guys, hey, you're first of all, not downplaying what they did the week before. They were one of the top 5 teams in the league the week before against Baker Mayfield, and Baker got out and made some plays. They won the game. Good on them.
Yeah.
But you were one of the top 5 teams in the league in pressure in the quarterback. He said, we're close, guys. Now we need to finish. We need to finish. Okay, this is what we need to do to finish. Let's keep our rush integrity. Let's keep the quarterback hemmed in. But let's get after him. I'm not turning things down because a quarterback got out of the pocket a couple times last week. We're still coming. Let's just make sure the thing that I want people to remember, and I wrote down a couple of notes about it, is the ability to remember this is a young group, okay? You've got 2 edge guys that are rookies. You've got 2 interior guys that played a combined 10 games last year. In a row played 8. Dorless played 2. Okay, got a young group up there. You've got a bunch of new guys that have come in. Divine Diablo. You've got Leonard Floyd. New guys. Okay, we got to learn how to play together. Stunts where I'm running ET stunts where the tackle's going to go outside and try to pick their offensive tackle off, and we're going to loop back to the inside. That takes time to put all that together at game speed.
Correct.
And so they're learning. Hey, you know what? This is a fast learning group. You put 6. You talked about edge guys. Dorless got sacks. Romo was there. Onyemata was getting it. I mean, there were a lot of guys that were involved in this. And yes, our 2 young edge guys got theirs, which is cool to get those guys. I thought that Jalen's rush down in the red zone was a key rush. Got just the speed rush around. Got his dance on afterward. And guys feed off of it. Who feeds off of it? The ball hawks in the back end. And I know you want to get to those guys, but let's talk about just the pass rush. That's what kind of struck me. Young group still learning a new system and learning how to play together. And, man, we saw what it could look like when they get it.
Shock. Harrison, Dorless, Walker, Pierce, Floyd, Ororo.
Ooh.
All of them got into the mix, right? So, yeah, I mean, certain times, certain players, right, like – Micah Parsons, like maybe Micah Parsons gets 2.5 in one game. The encouraging thing is you had multiple players getting to the quarterback, right? And if this is one area that the Falcons needed to see the most improvement, they saw it in the second game. Now through 2 games this year, Falcons 7 sacks. Last year through 2 games, 3 sacks. Already seeing the importance. Granted, a lot of them came in week 2, but still very encouraging that it showed up.
I think we've talked about this before would you rather have one guy with 13, 14 sacks or have a collection of guys with 6, 7, 8, 9 sacks? And I think you saw in game 2, that's a possibility. You saw guys winning one-on-one efforts. Jalen Walker rips, climbs through, gets the quarterback. How quickly he does, he gets that. James Pierce, Arch just talked about it, ET stunt on both sides. Wheels around from the middle, still runs through the offensive lineman, beats the guy to the quarterback. Here comes Dorless. It's like feeding frenzy. They smell blood in the water. They're going to get him. Float, they just don't even block him, but he does such a great job of J.J. McCarthy thinks, oh, maybe I can throw that. He pauses a little bit second, and then he goes and gets him. I mean, you got guys who know how to get to the quarterback, but also know how to get the guy on the ground. And we saw that, in week 1 where the pressure was there, and Baker's just one of those kind of guys who's very elusive and can make guys miss. McCarthy, you saw him the week before. He was able to get out and make plays with his legs, and there was nowhere for him to go. I thought the great thing about the way they rushed, what Arch mentioned, was the discipline they had. It was aggressive, but it was under control. You can go back and watch the tape. There are 4 or 5 times where they get sacks, and the edge guys are at the level of the quarterback. They didn't go too far, so that you go too far, okay, he can just climb with the pocket and go.
Yeah.
But then you set the level of where the quarterback is, and then you get pushed from the inside, there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. And you saw that no amount of times in this ball game where they were aggressive, they were under control, but they also knew how to have really good discipline in their rush lanes, and each guy did not get out of it. And then the other part about it is when you get to a level and the guy does able to climb up, you saw guys retracing their steps, coming back down here and going to get the quarterback. And he wasn't running out of there. They were going to run him down. And when it happens, comes in bunches, the guys are excited. And it was just great to see those guys have that. And I think the last part about it is you saw there were times when you rushed with 4 and it just wasn't anywhere to go with the football. So you're talking about the front end, working with the back end working with the front end. And that's dangerous where you got nowhere to go with the football as a quarterback sitting back there like, oh, where do I go now?
Yeah.
And you can't even hardly get out the pocket either. So it was a fun group to watch, on Sunday night, and it was good to see these guys put it on tape, and now these guys can just build on that. And I think we talked about it with some of the young guys of learning how to play this game and trying to learn how the speed of it, what to use on certain guys. We saw in preseason a couple of times, we saw Jalen Walker kind of get swallowed up at times in the preseason. It don't like he getting swallowed up anymore. He is a quick learner, and it's fun to watch all these guys. Pierce has been that guy we've seen all camp, edgy, getting out around the corner, having that speed. So it's going to be good to see these guys continue to grow as pass rushers.
Yeah, the cool part about it is, too, guys, is this is 2 weeks in a row you've taken a run game away from a team that wants to run the ball.
Yep.
We knew Tampa coming in last week was, number 4 in the league a year ago and running the football. You took the run game away from them. Now, we didn't finish the part of it. You fixed that this weekend. But Minnesota, when they got back into the game against Chicago, they got the run game cranked up. Jordan Mason got cranked up in that fourth quarter and started running it. JJ got out of the pocket, made a couple plays. You snuffed the run game out. He had no other thing to go to. He had to throw the football. And then Ulbrich was able to – we talk about some of these coordinators, Bowles and Flores, who we faced early in the year here, and some of the exotics they can come with. Jeff Ulbricht's got his little bag of tricks, too, and the stuff he wants to come with. Divine Diablo coming through the middle, Lupin Pierce, a lot of stuff that they can come with. Billy Bowman coming off the edge. There's some things that he can dial up as well. So it's fun to see that they're taking care of the first piece of it, take the run game away. That's going to be critical this weekend against Carolina.
2025 draft class on full display. Pearson Walker with their first sacks, Billy Bowman Jr., Xavier Watts with their first interceptions. Dare I say Billy Bowman almost had two of them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Almost had 2.
Yeah.
Guys, in the offseason, we talked so much about these guys' ball skills, right? And Xavier Watts probably a little frustrated in the first game. He had a couple of opportunities, didn't make them. Well, it was only the next week. Week 2, both of them get their hands on the football. Even more encouraging. As the pass rush comes up front, Arch, the players in the back are feasting on it and taking advantage.
Well, and don't think that those guys up front, knowing that effort they're putting in is going to pay off back there. They know that, hey, if I can get there, get in the face of the quarterback, my guys on the back end are going to steal it. Really good job by both those guys, the 2 young guys. I thought Bowman's interception was incredible because he's in the hip pocket, outside breaking route. He's right there, makes the play, kind of being jumbled around by the other player. Almost came up with another one, as you said. I thought he got beat on one play where they ran an out route. The rest of the time, and you talk about learning and kind of Xavier Watts, I was a little too shallow last week and threw it over the top of me. Where was he this time?
Yeah.
He's behind the receiver. We know he's got receiver skills, played receiver his rookie year or his freshman year at Notre Dame. 24 career interceptions between those 2 guys, and they already have each have an interception in 2 games. That bodes well.
Yeah, so very, very encouraging as not only the pass rush was there, the secondary was there to make plays. Last thing I want to talk about from last week, guys, is the only somewhat unfortunate news is A.J. Terrell ended up going down. Early reports are hamstring injury. Raheem Morris was asked yesterday in his virtual press conference what the status is. They say that we're going to continue this throughout the day or throughout every day this week. So he's day to day. So we're not going to go ahead and guess on what's going to happen with him, but this might be an opportunity, Arch, to talk a little bit about the depth behind him if he is not able to go this week against Carolina.
Yeah, you're looking at Natrone Brooks. You're looking at D. Alford, who came in at corner. By the way, the first play A.J. was out, D makes a really good play on a deep route.
Yep.
He was right in the hip pocket. I don't know if it was Justin Jefferson or who it was, but he was right in his hip pocket and incomplete play. So D immediately came in and paid dividends. And give Jeff Ulbrich, give Jerry Gray, all the staff on the defensive side for cross-training those guys. Remember, D was working a ton at nickel. In fact, was your starting nickel a year ago. They shifted him the last 2 weeks of training camp to playing exclusively outside. Mm-hmm. They had Mike Ford playing inside at the nickel spot with Billy Bowman, and they got a whole bunch of reps at the corner spot. Here we are in week 2. Boom, he's in the game and immediately plays dividends. But Natrone Brooks has the ability to play there as well. Remember, Clark Phillips is really close to coming off, being able to play. They've had to inactivate him because of a rib injury. He's very close to being ready to play. And then you got a couple guys waiting in the wings, and Kobe Bryant and C.J. Henderson, guys that are on your practice squad. So you have some depth there, albeit a couple guys are young guys, but you've got guys that have played in the league. You're talking about C.J. Henderson's played a ton. If you want to elevate him, Clark Phillips, we know, has started and played, and of course D. Alford, the way he played. So I think you're okay there.
Shock, this is the name of the game in the NFL. There's injuries. I mean, just ask the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They're going to lose their quarterback. I mean, these things happen,
right?
Okay, but the whole mantra in the league is next man up, right? When you get your opportunity, it's time to take advantage of it. Don't make excuses. Go out there and make plays and find a way to help your team win. So if A.J. Terrell is not there, guys like D. Alford and the rest of that depth, it's their opportunity to go out and make plays.
No doubt about it. And that's why you go through a training camp. You see what guys are capable of. You go through a training camp to see, okay, if a guy is down, can this guy fill the void for us? And I think we all saw Natrone Brooks in preseason. It felt really good about his level of play. We know what D. Alford is about, his ability to play inside and outside. It gives you a lot of confidence with this defense on the back end. And I think when you get into the nuts and bolts of it, this is a really tight-knit group of defensive backs. It was a very tough competition going through training camp. So you know, to make this ball club, you had to be on your game every single day. And I think that's what players, once you get to this level, understand, is that once you get to a place in this league where you make a ball club, there's probably a really good chance that you're going to play, especially in the defensive backcourt, because of just the nature of the business. And now A.J. Terrell goes down. Here's another spot for another guy to step in. Talking about D. Alford, first play, making a play coming in there. And they don't expect a fall off. They expect you to step in and continue that standard, which is playing really good football. So I expect whoever steps in, whoever to play in the back there, to continue to play at a high level. And that's why you're on this ball club, for one, because they feel though you can.
Well, and there's a conversation, okay, does that change what we do defensively? To my knowledge, guys, with Jeff Ulbrich calling the shots defensively, I did not notice, and maybe you guys did, I did not notice whether – I didn't see A.J. traveling with Justin Jefferson, and that means he goes wherever he went. A.J. was playing his side. Hughes was playing his side. That makes it easier to plug in D. Alford or whoever's going to start potentially if A.J. can't go. We don't even know if A.J. can go or not. That's going to be a day-to-day situation. But that even magnifies the fact, no, we're going to do what we do defensively. We've got guys we have confidence in. We saw Darryl Stingley, who, if you watch the game on Sunday night, Stingley was following Mike Evans, right? He followed him all over the field. Haven't seen that in the first couple weeks of the season with Ulbrich's defense. I think he likes his corners to stay on either side. Now, doesn't mean you can't do that.
Right.
But I'm just trying to emphasize the fact that, people are sitting at home, well, yeah, but A.J. goes with the best receiver that they have. He has done that before. Don't know that he's been doing it
but
this
not
year.
All the time.
Yeah, and it's not an every time thing. So you can stay with your philosophy of how you want to play defensively.
Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes your projects hassle-free. Forget something you need? Visit HomeDepot.com or the Home Depot app for free delivery on millions of products, including same-day and next-day options. Get delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability.
All right, so we will metaphorically and actually turn the page to next week as the Atlanta Falcons get another divisional matchup. They got to go on the road once again, but this time they're going to get the 0-2 Carolina Panthers. Carolina has lost to Jacksonville 26-10 and Arizona 27-22. So, Arch, let me throw this right back to you. You get right back into a divisional matchup. You see, in Tampa ends up winning again on Monday night. Baker Mayfield shows what he does at the end of games once again. So Tampa starts 2-0, and this is kind of life in the NFL and life in divisional plays. Sometimes it's keep up. Sometimes you think about the next game is the most important game. And guess what? The next game for the Falcons is a divisional game on the road.
Yeah, really immediately got to shift gears. Talked about how young this team is, Rack, and we've been around young players that kind of get caught up in the previous performance, and we got to shift gears. The NFL, you got to get on to the next week. That's it. I think Raheem does a really good job of making sure, and I asked him about this, is the focus got to shift right now. Okay, hey, that was cool. We left that. We're now a few days removed from that. That's in the rearview mirror. We've got that in the stockpile of wins. Yep. Now we need to go get us another one. This is a divisional opponent. This is an opponent that, quite frankly, if you're a defensive player, embarrassed you in Week 18 last year. You know, they put up 44 points, beat you in overtime. Bryce Young looked like he had just transformed himself into Tom Brady, throwing the ball over the yard, 3 touchdowns. So you got to get ready. They got a really good running back in Chuba Hubbard. You got to control the run game like you have in the first 2 weeks of the season. So, to your point, got to immediately shift gears, and we know how paramount it is to make sure you win in division. And you've already lost one at home in division, need to go take one on the road in division.
Yeah, and Shock, you talked a lot about the pass rush and how they were so disciplined against Minnesota, right? The guys on the outside getting upfield, but also retreating when they feel like they're getting too far, and then still getting that continued pressure up the middle. We know that Bryce Young doesn't want to run with the football, but he's got enough athleticism to extend plays. To me, it seems like a very similar concept this week is we got to cage him in just to make sure that he doesn't slide up in the pocket and get outside, because all he's trying to do is keep the play alive to find an open receiver. He will run with it a little bit, but that's not what he wants to do. But it's got to be a very similar all 4, all 5, all 6, however you want to call it. Pass rushers have to be disciplined in their attack to make sure he stays inside the pocket.
I think that's a good point, because Bryce Young is the type of quarterback that once he does escape, he's looking to throw the football. He wants to throw the ball down the field. So it's one of those games where, once he gets out, you got to think, I still have to plaster on the backside, but you still have to rush with the same kind of integrity. I think playing against the 2 guys you've played against in the first 2 ball games bode well for you heading into Week 3 against Carolina. And guarantee you, he's going to go back and watch that game from last year and say, here were some things that we did really well that they're going to try to emulate coming into this ball game. And we talked about it earlier with Michael Penix, and having a run game has been big. Well, he hasn't had that. Chuba Hubbard's got 95 yards on 26 carries in 2 ball games. They haven't ran the ball really well. Bryce Young's the next, next top guy with 42 yards. And, in the last 2 ball games, he's got 90 pass attempts in the last 2 ball games. We talked about being able to, first game, Michael Penix had to throw it 42 times. In this game, he didn't have to. Well, Bryce Young's had to do that. So when you come to this ball game, not saying, okay, they're not going to run it, because they absolutely going to try to run the football, but if they can't, you know where they're going to go. So I think this is another ball game where you do what you've done the first 2 ball games, which is take away the run game, be really, physical in that part of it, but then also be aware that you have a guy who wants to throw the football down the field. He will take some chances, but once he gets outside, he does want to create with his arm, like you mentioned, more than his legs.
Fellas, we finally here is we kind of glimpsed last week of you prepare for the opponent, but you handle your business. So what I mean by that is you prepare for the Carolina Panthers. You look at tape, you look at tendencies, you look at matchups that you can exploit. But if Atlanta goes out and they execute by running the football on offense like we saw against Minnesota, stopping the run on defense like they did against Minnesota, taking advantage of the pass rush when the opportunities present themselves after you stop the run and they have to throw the football, how many times the first 2 games? 90. A lot.
90.
Okay? Then you do what you do, and you come out and you execute and win, right? It's not so much about them and what they're going to do and what their personnel is. It's, can you continue to execute the game plan? Running the football, stopping the run, getting after the quarterback and pass rush.
Yeah, how much can you – it's a great point, Rack. How much can you make it about you? You know, and if you can make it about you, and yes, as you said, you prepare, watch tape, all those kind of things. This is a team, in the last 2 games, you've run for – almost 200 yards in game 1. You ran 198 yards in game 1 against them in a win. What was it, 38-20? You won in Carolina a year ago. And then in the last week of the season, you ran for 227 yards, and you lost that football game in overtime. So you've had your way running the football. Now, the one caveat to that I'll say is, as much as we want to make it about us, Derek Brown's going to be back on the field in the interior. He is 6'5", 320 pounds, and he has been a guy that's a nightmare to block. Atlanta struggled with him in the games he's played. Oh, by the way, they've added in free agency Bobby Brown. No, not the new kid on the block, but Bobby Brown is 6'4", 332 pounds in the air. Those are the two defensive tackles in the interior. So it is going to be a physical all-day fight with those guys. They've got 8 different players on their defensive side of the football that didn't play last year. They went out in free agency. This is a little bit different defense that we're going to see. Now, they've had their moments here in the first couple weeks of the season, but as much as you want to make it about them or make it about you, you better make sure that you have these guys blocked, and those interior guys are going to be big.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Bobby Brown, the R&B artist, can you name me one of his best songs that he ever had?
It was the one from Ghostbusters.
That's it. I like it.
works. There you go.
You know what the first one that came to my mind? Roni.
Roni.
Didn't he do My Prerogative?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's him.
It's my prerogative. No, I remember the.
My prerogative.
Next, we're going to have Arch do the dance to My Prerogative.
Right.
That'd be good.
Wow, I'm going to have to go.
With the big baggy pants.
I got to go to work right now.
I
got to go work right now.
I don't think we can talk about football after we just talked about Bobby Brown, My Prerogative, and watching Arch put on the pants next week that have the sequins and everything on it. I mean, that would make my year. All right. Okay. All right. So Falcons even it up 1-1 on the season after a victory against Minnesota Vikings this week. They're on the road once again to play the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-2. Atlanta looking to get their first divisional win and improve their record to 2-1 this year. That's going to do it here for the Falcons Audible, presented by AT&T. That's DJ Shockley. That's Arch saying stop with all that skull stuff in Minnesota. And I'm Derek Rackley. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.